I'm John Payne from the rock band Asia FJP. I started in Asia in 1991, so actually this year is 20 years of me in the band. And I'm in the studio now, here in California, doing something like album number 13, unlucky for some. But I've been... I started off actually originally as a guitarist. I then listened to a lot of rock music like Rainbow and Dio and Deep Purple, and decided that I wanted to be a vocalist. And then just over 20 years ago I got asked to join Asia, and basically have been producing and touring with Asia and Asia FJP ever since. Occasionally do other collaborations and other productions for other people, but I'm very, very picky about production and sound. And so when I went to the NAMM show in 2011, I saw this very nice piece of kit that we have here, which is the Kemper Profiling Amplifier. And I've been very lucky to, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, to play with it, record it, fiddle it, learn how the thing works. And it's indeed a very interesting unit. I've been sometimes not a big fan of profiling or of modeling, because there's coming from the kind of music and the kind of history of the bands that I've been around, from Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and all those classic rock and progressive bands. They've had a very definable sound of particular amplifiers and particular guitars. And in my mind, this is the first unit that actually manages to capture the real amplifier sound. When I was at the show, I was very impressed, even with all the background noise going on, that you could hear the original amp and then hear the profile, and it became very, very hard to see which was which. And what I find incredibly cool is that you can model or profile, whichever of the two of us is the correct word. So I'm sure there's quite a difference. But you can actually get a low gain amplifier and then mess around with the gain and actually turn that into a high gain amplifier if you wish. Or say you have a very simple amp that doesn't have mid controls, you've got all the extra EQ controls as you would have on a current amplifier. So the very cool thing for me is, what I'm interested in doing with it, one of the main things is capturing a sound of a solo that we have in the studio and actually bringing that out on the road. If you want to be a hi-fi rock band and try and reproduce what you've done in the studio, it's often very hard. And it's often very hard to have big scene changes in your sound. With something like this, I can see taking this on the road, and currently there's a few solos on the album that I would really like to duplicate and bring out onto the road. And I can see this unit doing that. On the other hand, what has been useful for me, I'm working on a new Asia album at the moment, and what has been very useful for me is dialing up sounds very, very quickly. You can be in the studio and have some great ideas, and unless you've already got the mic, the cabinet mic'd up exactly how you want, and most amplifiers, even great ones, have 2 or 3 really good sounds, and they're not that versatile. You have to get another amplifier up, and once you've done that, you kind of lose the thread of how a session's working. With something like this, you can go how about we do a clean sound, and how about we, you know, put a little bit of modulation on it, because there's a whole effects center here as well as delays and reverbs and Leslie speaker simulations and stuff like that. So very, very quickly you can dial in a completely different sound from the one that you're working with. So for your workflow, it doesn't matter whether you're in a budget studio or in a huge, you know, $2,000 a day studio, you can quickly access new sounds which will help your continuing thought process flowing. So your workflow is really good with something like this without, you know, compromising your sound. There's some other very, very cool things on this unit which I like. Is there's some kind of envelope thing going on. So there's like a synth center where you can actually change the attack or the envelope of a pick sound. So say you wanted something to have a little bit more attack on a solo, you can dial that in on this, and I've not known any other unit be able to do that. So I think as a unit it covers many things. The most important thing at the end of the day is, does it sound good? You can have all those accessibility options as we've had before on pedal boards, and in my mind, you know, a lot of those fall short other than being great for demoing or whatever. But in a track, I've used this with real amps and the profiling amplifier, and it really holds its own. I think it's a great unit, and I think it's going to be a very popular unit. As a touring band in America, we do a lot of fly dates now. That there'll be a concert on a Friday in Florida, and then on Saturday we'll be in Montana, and then on Sunday we'll be somewhere else. And it just makes it impossible to truck those routes. It just time and distance. And often then you go to Europe or Japan. A lot of these places, if you're doing a continued road tour, yes, you can hire the gear. You can ship your fridge of racks of guitar equipment. But on a fly date, as a lot of you may know, that your carry-on without crazy money is up to £50 in each unit. Otherwise, there are huge costs involved. So I could see this being a very good unit for fly dates. I've worked with many great guitarists, from Steve Howard, Pat Thrall to Elliot Randall, and all these guys are very particular about their gear and their sounds. But for a fly date, yes, you can get a company come in and bring in a Marshall head, but you start getting stuff like exotic equipment. One, they don't all sound the same in any case. Two, it's higher gear. It can be very dodgy as whether it could work properly. And you know, a valve amp is a changing creature. Something like this, you're bringing in a myriad of amp sounds, and then you can pre-program and all your effects and delays. And you could even, I was thinking about this the other day, hook this up to a MIDI sequencer and change your patches as you go through a set. So you could connect this to, say, a valve power amp if you wanted to, or just a clean power amp, and then if you have a sequence show, as a lot of bands do nowadays, it could do all your changes for you. So I can see this being very useful for that kind of thing. For fly dates, I would think it's invaluable. One very useful thing that I think is going to be great for this unit for a lot of players and for a lot of recording studios is to have it replace the need for a lot of people to bring in huge amounts of equipment to then set up, to then mic up, or also be in the acoustic environment. You know, a lot of people have great control rooms, but they don't have great live rooms, so they can't hook up a big setup with multiple speakers and a loud volume. A lot of us do work with stems and send them off to other people, which works, but it kind of doesn't work. You know, music is meant to be an empathy with a group of people creating, and this remote internet age, I think, loses a bit of that. The great thing is to have people in the room with you, and I just worked with my guitarist Bruce Bouillet, and he has a Pro Tool system at home, and we tried doing it with stems. Didn't work. We came in, we argued, and then out of that argument and collaboration we got a creative take. I can see you know, guy I'm working with having a profiling amp at home and even saying to me, I've got this great sound, what about this? He can even email me the files, and we can put them in and check the sounds out. But then he can come along with the thumb drive, say, here's the sounds for the session, but let's now do the creative playing part. This is the sounds that I think would work. And the sound that he gets might not quite work, but of course then you can tweak it within this unit or go for a completely different sound. So I can see it being a very useful studio modern tool that actually incorporates creativity. I think units like this really benefit players working together. I had a large studio in Wales, in the UK, which a lot of famous albums are done there. Definitely Maybe was done there, and the Verve recorded Northern Soul there. And if I had an idea, it used to take so long for me to get that down to tape. Someone had to put a reel of tape on. I mean, it's great. It was a great studio, but it took a long time. I was basically pushed and dragged screaming into Pro Tools because I didn't like it when I first came along. And now I absolutely love it. I have all my templates in Pro Tools, and I go whack, it comes up, I've got a song idea. I've also got Logic as well on this one, and the keyboard comes up, straight away playing. So cutting the stream of consciousness is a really, really awkward and terrible thing that can happen to you. With units like this, this increases the flow. There might be someone in town, just a friend visiting, and you phone them up and saying, like my friend Guthrie Governs in town, come along and play on this, and he could just come along and go, okay, yeah, have you got, what amps you got there, what do you want? Do you want a Fender Twin, do you want a Marshall, or, you know, and that creativity is really sped up with units like this. So I think this has got a very valid place in modern recording. Well, guys, thank you for letting me try this unit out. It's been a wonderful learning curve, and I actually wrote a couple of songs on it as well, which was really cool. It was just like sitting down and got to this guitar sound, and sounds are inspiring to players. Synthesists and pianists already had that, where they could just hit the presets and go for great sounds. Before we had pedal boards and stuff. With something like this, you just go whack and you got a great sound. So for that, it's brought us into that age of the same as the keyboard players have, that immediate accessibility to sounds which then inspire you to write something different. So I would really like to thank the people at Kemper for getting this creature together. I saw it, I fell in love with it at the 2011 NAMM show, and I think it's got a great future. So well done, guys.